Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. With a new year fast approaching, it's time to get up to speed on tax changes that may affect your upcoming filing. This afternoon, we've called on some tax experts who can help us understand the key changes relating to the upcoming filing season and can also tell us where to find free tax help. Joining me are Deirdre Thurston and Christine Spidell. Deirdre is an enrolled agent with the Central Vermont Low-Income Taxpayer Clinic, and Christine is a staff attorney with Vermont Legal Aid's Low-Income Taxpayer Project. Thanks so much for being with us again.
Thank you.
Let's start out by one of the biggest changes. It stems from a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in June known as the Windsor Decision. And Christine, tell us about the significance of that.
That's huge. Basically, that's the decision that led to the federal government recognizing all same-sex marriages. And the case was about two women who had been married for years and been partners for years, and it was actually about the inheritance tax. Went all the way up to the Supreme Court. People were not sure what was going to happen, and just this past summer, the Supreme Court said that the federal government did not have a legal basis to discriminate against same-sex married couples when it came to the federal benefit, which is the estate tax exclusion.
And so how will the Windsor decision impact Vermonters?
Well, they won't need to do, same-sex married Vermonters won't need to do two separate tax returns anymore. Currently, they filed one state and one federal. That's going to be simpler. They'll also get the estate tax exclusion if a partner should die. But I do want to say it doesn't affect people in civil unions.
Okay. Are there any taxpayer disadvantages to the IRS recognizing same-sex marriages?
It depends on the couple. There definitely could be spouses who are worse off. It just depends on if they have children, what the income of each spouse is.
Right.
It's a very individual decision, and going along with that...
Well, they have the option of either married, filing joint or married, filing separate.
Right, but now they don't have the option of filing single.
That's right, that's right.
So,
and the separate, married, filing separate status it could be a higher tax. The same rules apply. It could be a higher tax. Credits are disallowed for married, filing separate. So
right.
you got to weigh it
do
out.
your research.
Yes.
Right, and the IRS is actually letting couples choose whether they want to go back 3 years and amend to file as married. So I would say every couple should probably look into that and see if they could get 3 past years of refunds.
That's right.
Of additional refunds, and that third year will expire on April 15th.
So it's really important to do your research now and figure that out.
Right.
And so, Deirdre, what's another major change that certain taxpayers really ought to know about?
In general is the qualified principal residence exclusion. If someone has the 1099-C cancellation of debt. Another is the energy credits, Form 5695, that is set to expire. One of the big things about that I can recommend to people is make sure that the property that you want to buy and install is certified by the manufacturer to be qualifying property.
So is that like windows and doors and
so if you've done major improvements to your home?
Right, exactly. Roof, all of that. The other thing I wanted to mention about that is sometimes people forget their carry forwards is to make sure that carry forward from 2012, if they had it in 2012, is brought forward to the 2013 return. Yes.
So Dee Dee, with the qualified principal residence exclusion, you said that you were working with some people who might have an issue with that expiring because...
Well, the challenge is going to be if the establishment that is forgiven the debt gets that if that's what's going to happen. If they are indeed going to receive a 1099-C, is it going to be in this filing season? Because there's many things that could help them not have to claim that, because 1099-C, you are to claim that as income on line 21 of your 1040. Now, some of the cancellation of debt in relation to the home, there is one exclusion is the insolvency exclusion, and it's huge. It's huge. It can forgive a lot of that debt.
So is there help for Vermonters who might be in situations like this?
Yes, there's actually, so maybe we should explain a little bit more. The qualified principal residence exclusion would help people if there was a foreclosure.
That's right.
Or a buyout of their home and they had canceled debt from that. And we actually have a project at Legal Services Law Line to help with Irene-related buyouts and foreclosures. And so people can call for help at 1-800-889-2047. And I think with this exclusion expiring December 31st, if you can get the settlement signed by December 31st, you'd have a good argument that the debt was canceled this year.
That's right.
There's also a bill in Congress to extend the exclusion, but nobody knows what will happen with that.
Right. So, but for right now, that deadline stands.
For right now, yes. The debt has to be canceled in 2013 for you to get that forgiveness.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's income, which I know people don't.
Yeah, which
it's crazy.
Yep. And so, how do people get help?
For
this,
well,
go ahead.
well, like I said, there's a specific Irene-related project, and then with the upcoming tax season, there are also places that will prepare tax returns for free. They do have to be relatively simple returns. Since these places are staffed by volunteers who are trained and certified, but it has to be pretty basic so that we can assure quality. And usually it's at your library, senior center, community action. There's actually, I'm always surprised when I run into people who don't know about this great resource. There were 80 sites in Vermont last year. So
that's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's very amazing.
It's actually accessible to most Vermonters.
And so, Deirdre, one of the other federal tax changes deals with energy home improvement credits, and what's happening with those?
Well, it's the biggest thing is to make sure, what I've seen in myself is where taxpayers need to really complete their homework and make sure that manufacturer certifies that the property is qualifying property for that credit. That's a big piece. Now, you don't have to send in that certification with your tax return, but you do need to retain that for your records and all the receipts, so on and so forth.
And so if that expires December 31st, what do people need to do if they're still thinking about, I know it's winter now, but some people may still have ongoing projects in their homes.
That's right.
Even though it's November. Do they need to spend the money? Do they need to hire the contractor?
Well, it needs to be, I would say, in their best interest to get everything in place before the end of the year. Try to complete those projects, because it's chilly out, but you can still do quite a bit of work. And again, I will say, make sure the property is certified, because that automatically disqualifies it, and you're going to lose any credit that you could be eligible for.
And what do you mean by certified?
The manufacturer will certify it that it is indeed qualifying credit. Property for the energy credit. It has to meet a certain standard.
Okay, so get that done ahead of time.
Oh, yes. And I was thinking also on something with the cancellation of debt, if it's the foreclosure, everything, if I can go back to that just for a minute.
Sure.
One suggestion I could make for that is start your homework early. If this is indeed something that could happen for you, I cannot stress enough the importance of putting that into place immediately into January. In other words, seeing, do I qualify? Is this going to happen for me? Because you have a lot of paperwork that you need to put in order for the tax preparer to be able to make this happen for you.
And so, Christine, where can people get help? And how can they find out about where the programs are?
They can call 211, and generally these sites get up and running in mid to late January. So I recommend that people, if you're not sure if your local library has a site, call the library, or just call 211 in mid-January, and you can make an appointment. That's best. I know that the sites near me usually fill up. They book
I
up.
bet they do.
They do.
And so now each of you work at low-income taxpayer clinics. And Deirdre, what do your clinics offer?
My clinic offers education, representation. I do education on many topics throughout the whole state of Vermont. And I do controversy for Orange, Washington, Lamoille County. The education is more towards people that speak English as a second language in Burlington area. So I can drive up here if an organization would like me to speak to their employees, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, joining us now is Vermont's taxpayer advocate. Robert Fett is here to discuss the help that's available to you if there's a problem after your tax return is filed. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you.
So how is the Taxpayer Advocate Service different from the programs that we've been talking about?
Well, the Taxpayer Advocate Service is actually a division of the Internal Revenue Service. We're an independent division of the IRS. We're your voice at the Internal Revenue Service. Our service is free, it's confidential, and it's tailored, pretty much to meet your needs.
And so, can you give me some scenarios about why someone would call you up?
Sure. We have two different types of cases that we work. The first is some sort of financial difficulty. People find themselves, especially in the economy that we've just come through, in great difficulty, and taxes are one of the things that they find themselves behind in, and they may be in other situations where they're being under foreclosure threat or eviction or something like that. And the Taxpayer Advocate Service can sort of get in there and work with them to help them resolve their IRS issues, but also forestall some of the actions that the IRS is likely to take to give them time to work out what has to be done.
Do people realize that this resource is available? I mean, I guess if you get a letter in the mail that says IRS, it's a little intimidating.
It is indeed, and that's why we're here. We're trying to let people know that, hey, we're here, we're out there, we're free. You often see these commercials at night for these tax services, and we're actually a free service that's available to taxpayers to help them. We listen to your problem, we help you understand what needs to be done to resolve it, and then the most important thing is we stay with you until the problem is resolved.
That's
really?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. It still amazes me. I've been managing the low-income taxpayer clinic for Community Action for 9.5 years, and I still hear people say they just don't realize what is out there for assistance. And so it just needs to be reinforced and reinforced over and over.
And so, Bob, what's the number that people can call?
Oh, the number they can call is 877-777-4778. A lot of sevens in there.
And there is a person that will answer the phone, a real person.
There's a real person who will answer the phone, and they'll take you through just a series of questions. They do a brief interview with you to try and determine what is your problem and what best help they can provide to you. And then they'll pass that on to the IRS taxpayer advocate here in Vermont or perhaps somewhere else in the country. There is a taxpayer advocate, local taxpayer advocate in every state in the country and the District of Columbia, and in several states there's more than one. And then there's a national taxpayer advocate in Washington, D.C., Nina Olson, and she was charged by Congress to do all of the mission that we're just discussed.
And you're prepared to walk people through whatever it is that their issue is.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Absolutely.
And like I said,
It can take years. They stay
I
right
was
with
just
you.
going to ask you that. How long does it usually take? I mean, it's kind of complicated.
it depends on the problem. Unlike the low-income tax clinics, we can accept any taxpayer if they meet certain criteria, and so we don't have the income limitations that they do. And so the problems could be any issue that you have with the Internal Revenue Service. I really can't nail down one specific type of problem. And the time frame that it takes to resolve them varies with the type of problem.
That's amazing. Well, we're just about out of time. Any final advice for Vermont taxpayers?
Yes, from the taxpayer advocate standpoint, if you get a letter from the Internal Revenue Service, read it, open it up, resolve the problem. Don't hide from it, because the problem will just get worse. It won't go away.
Definitely. That's great advice, Bob.
I echo that as well. Don't let that intimidate you. Reach out to us. We'll help you through it.
Right.
We will.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.